I'm Jen Sui. I'm a health and life coach empowering women to break through their fears, be confident in their authentic self, and create thriving relationships along the way. This is the Find Your Freedom podcast. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Find Your Freedom podcast. I'm Jen, and as always, I'm very excited that you're here with me for another episode. So in today's episode, you're going to be hearing from Sahar Habashi. She is an incredible client of mine. We just finished up her 24 weeks of coaching, and so this is a client interview that we did that is pre-recorded following her 24th session, just to review how she felt about coaching, her experiences with it, and I wanted to share it with you because I want to show what is possible for you when it comes to coaching. I think a lot of times people don't even know that coaching is an option. They don't know really like what the process is or like what can come out of it. They just know that they want help and that this is a really nice, approachable step for it. So I want you to pay attention to her journey. She's going to be talking about disordered eating, breaking unhealthy diet and lifestyle habits, as well as how she was able to create confidence in her ability to control her future in her health and happiness. We're also going to be touching upon her experience between coaching versus therapy, how the results and the process was different for her, as well as the mindset shifts that ultimately led to her new behavior changes. So I'm going to be putting the questions down in the timestamps in the show notes so that you can fast forward to those specific questions or review back to them in case you wanted to take notes or just apply some of the things that she said into your own life. So without any spoilers, I do want to say that we are going to go through a really exciting exercise that was Sahar's favorite, as well as one of my favorites, that helps my clients whenever they feel unclear or unmotivated to get a sudden burst of that energy so that they can move forward with their goals. If you want to know what that exercise is, just keep listening and then you'll know when it gets there. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it. What were the challenges you were going through when you decided to start coaching?
So my name is Sahar. I am a student who in the past year moved to Los Angeles area. And so it was interesting because I was first more so looking for a personal trainer. And then when I came across Jen, I ended up learning about coaching as well. And it kind of seemed like it was maybe the thing that I was missing in my like wellness journey, like throughout most of my life, like I would say like the past 10 years. I think the biggest thing that I kind of came to coaching for was understanding that I had a history of disordered eating and that kind of led to a lot of unhealthy habits and that it was affecting a lot of things mentally and physically in my life. And that, I just kind of come to a certain point in my life where I just didn't want to be stuck in that anymore. And so through coaching, I feel like I was really able to, be honest with myself about that and, come to terms with it and, figure out how to work through that history and, create better habits for myself to actually live like healthier and more sustainably, like, in the future and not just have it be like, a temporary diet or fad or anything like that. And so, yeah.
Yeah, it was really awesome to find you in that space also because, you're very open about talking about your mental health and, you do see like a therapist often, which I think is awesome. And I wanted to touch upon that a little bit because people have a lot of confusion of like what is therapy versus coaching and are those two the same thing? So can you talk a little bit about your experience with coaching in comparison to therapy and kind of like what the process was different and what you've learned differently?
Yeah. So I have been in therapy, like kind of like simultaneously with coaching, just because it is part of my weekly routine. And so it was definitely interesting to see kind of like how the two play off of each other, but also like how they're different. And so with coaching, I feel like I was definitely able to go more in depth of, understanding maybe at least in the beginning, like why certain habits are the way that they are, why I think a certain way about myself and about the like, the way I like, do certain things and all of that affects like my mental and physical well-being. But then kind of learning how to put that in the past and trying to move on from it, and you know just trying to figure out how to better myself, and really going into depth over those things of like different like what would you call them, like the worksheets and stuff like that, and just understanding like different techniques and things that I feel like I don't really do anything like that in therapy. Therapy definitely helps me kind of understand why certain things were the way that they are. But I feel like with coaching, I was able to really go more in depth into those habits, and then learning like, how my routine is and how to build better, more sustainable habits like within my own routine. And so I would say that coaching definitely helps like actually help you like work on yourself in that more like in terms of like habit forming and like kind of having that like affirmations and all of that. Like that was something that I've never really talked about in therapy or anything. And so something that I didn't realize that is actually very helpful. And so having that in understanding how that works, I think definitely helps a lot in counseling.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really glad that you bring that perspective, because it is super important to know that if you're someone who is going through therapy and you think you also want to work with a coach, that you're in a functional position like you were, Sahar. Like you can totally take care of yourself perfectly fine. And therapy is a great way to process like things in the past. And like you were saying, coaching was really focusing on the now, the present, so that you can build a thriving future.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
with that being said, like, what was the most rewarding result for you in your journey that came out of working together?
I think honestly, just like, because one big thing for me too is like I feel like a lot of times when I see people who have like made progress and their like wellness journey and stuff, and I say progress like this just because like I feel like
In
I've
air
never
quotes.
I
Yeah.
feel like I've never seen like that like big like progress moment that a lot of times you see like online and everything. And at a lot of times that can be very it can be very like disappointing and kind of like you can kind of like bring you down and think like, well, why haven't I gotten to that point yet? And like a lot of times you'll even read about like, the things that they're restricting from themselves and like, the more extreme things that they're doing to like get to that point. And, it works for some people, but it really isn't like viable for a lot of other people. And I'm definitely one of those people. And so I feel like one thing that was really helpful with coaching was learning that I don't have to punish myself. I don't have to guilt myself, that I can still do activities I enjoy. I can still, sit and watch TV if I want to. I can still, eat pizza if I want to, but, just learning how to like, like better maintain and create a balance basically. Like, I don't have to like eat pizza every night of the week. I could enjoy it once a week, but then, the rest of the nights, maybe I'm making sure that my meals are more nutritionally balanced, and that's not that pizza can't be nutritious, but obviously I think people are aware of that. And so just learning how to be able to create the right balance for yourself, and understanding that like you don't have to like stop living. Like you can like still go out and party or go on vacation. Like you can enjoy yourself, but still like work on bettering yourself at the same time. Like you don't have to like make them like two separate parts of your life, or like two different times of your life in that sense. So
Yeah. Yeah, I will say, just like as a coach, like watching you go through all this and kind of being that observer, it was really cool to see you step more into yourself and like let yourself be who you are and do the things that you want to do without like that guilt and shame, like anything of like holding you back. Like you were able to find pieces and moments of non-judgment. And I thought was really, really cool to just see you be like not being yourself about it. And like that actually led to you being able to stick to healthier habits, because you weren't like, reprimanding yourself. You weren't being mean to yourself.
yeah. And that's like another thing too, is like in the past, if like let's say I had like kind of like a setback day or something, I would kind of feel like, well, I've kind of screwed it up for the whole week now, so I guess I'll just continue like, you know, continuing these habits that aren't as good for me, or that don't make me feel as good for the rest of the week, and I'll start fresh again like next week. Like, I can just be like, you know what, like, yeah, like maybe I ate junk food all day, like, but that's okay. Like tomorrow I'll just do better. Like tomorrow I'll make sure that my meals like actually have more like nutritional value and make me feel like I have more energy and that I feel better about myself, rather than punishing myself and then just kind of allowing myself to like kind of sit in that guilt for so long that then it's like hard to get out of. And so I feel like by accepting that and allowing yourself to like, have those moments rather than punishing yourself is also super important.
Yeah. Can you actually go a little bit more in depth into that? Because, that decision of like, okay, like I'm just going to forgive myself and I have more opportunities to be healthy later versus just like staying in that guilt. Like, where was that moment where you were like, no, I'm going to choose to think this way instead? Like, what helped you choose that instead?
I think a big part of it for me too is like, I mean, that's definitely a habit that I've had for years, honestly, that, is definitely hard to break through. And like, obviously a lot of us have gone through a lot of stress and like negative emotions and things through the past year because of the pandemic. And I actually started grad school through Zoom through during the pandemic. And so uh, it's definitely caused a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. And, I've definitely reverted to food for comfort a lot. And not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes I was just putting too much, like I was giving myself too much to food for comfort. And a lot of times just trying to like excuse like some of my habits just because I knew I was like stressed. And instead of kind of like making excuses for myself, I was able to be like, you know what, like it's okay if I need this today. And then tomorrow I can kind of start anew. I can, allow myself to take care of myself the way that I feel like I want to and the way that I need to. Um, and so I think it's definitely okay to have those moments. But as long as you're like aware of it too, like if you're just doing it subconsciously, it's definitely harder to like get out of it. And so I think being able to be aware of it and being like, okay, like, yeah, like maybe this wasn't like the healthiest decision, but you know what? Like it made me happy and that's okay. And tomorrow, like if I want to eat like, something that is a bit like healthier or a bit more nutritious, and that's great. And like I'll make an effort to do that. So I think that's definitely something that I'm a lot more aware of now. I'm able to balance it a bit better.
Yeah, I love that. The recognition, being
Yeah.
able to recognize, being able to recognize that like food brings you joy, and like that's totally normal. That's a really healthy thing. Like it's food should bring you joy,
Mhm.
and it's just like foods that you might perceive as more balanced, like can also bring you joy, and the foods that are perceived as like not nutritious, quote unquote not nutritious, is actually like spiritually or like emotionally nutritious. So you can have both.
Oh
Awesome.
yeah, definitely. And I think also like we talked a lot about like those foods that are kind of like deemed like, like less nutritious or healthy. Like one way to kind of make yourself feel better about like enjoying those foods too is like if you make them yourself, because like you're aware of everything that's like going into it. And so, you don't have to feel like as bad about like, for instance, like because I use this already, like eating pizza, because like you don't have to think about like the like gobs of sodium that's like going into it, because like you're
Yeah.
controlling everything that's like going on it. And and it's also more of like a fun process too, so it actually like becomes an activity as well. And so yeah, I feel like cooking also like I've always loved, but the past like year or two, like it's definitely been a bit more of a stressful thing for me. If it feels more like way more effort than like I used to feel about it. But I feel like through coaching and stuff too, I've really been able to like find ways to enjoy it more, find ways to make it work in my schedule a lot more, which has definitely made me feel better. Like I feel like I am able to accomplish more in my day when I feel like, oh, I've cooked something, or I've already prepared this for, the next 2 days. And like I have like an actual like great meal to look forward to. And I don't have to worry about the stress of cooking either and stuff. And so yeah, I feel like coaching has definitely helped me understand how to create more of like a work-life balance as well.
Yay, I'm so excited to hear that. And I know you've also been cooking with your boyfriend, which is really exciting because that's always
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, super fun.
Um,
We've had a good time.
yeah. So, speaking of all these changes that you've made, what was the most valuable either like mindset shift, tool, or resource that you got from your journey?
Um, I feel like sometimes it's hard to like really like pinpoint it to kind of like one, but I think a couple of things that really stand out to me, like one of the biggest ones is definitely like what we were just talking about, like kind of like not guilting myself, like, just being conscious of my decisions. And even if it's something that, may not be considered healthy or whatever, like that's okay. And as long as it brings you joy, and you're also able to like be aware of what you're doing and just maybe making more conscious choices like as well, like throughout the week and throughout your future. I think that's definitely been super helpful. I think also like trying to think of like my future self. I know that that's something more recently like we like touched up on, but
Yeah.
it's still something that is in the back of my head. And so like obviously like I just got done with finals, and so I haven't been able to think about my future
Yeah.
self as much. But now that I have that like downtime, I'm really excited to be able to kind of like go deeper into that, like within myself, of like what do I see as my future self, like what do I see as myself that like that I really want to accomplish, and being able to like enforce that in like my environment and my habits and everything. So like I'm definitely very curious to see how I approach that, especially like on my own, and seeing like what I've taken from you and seeing like how I can like uh continue it like on my own. So I'm very curious to see what happens with that.
Yeah, 100%. You've really made like leaps and bounds like with your progress. And I love that you brought up the future self exercise. And so like for those of you guys who are listening and like don't know what that is, we did a meditation together. We did it in the form of meditation. You can also do it in the form of journaling, where you either write down or you visualize, and they kind of go hand in hand because if you're writing it down, you have to visualize, but you visualize your ideal self, your happiest, healthiest self. What does that look like to you? What is the vibration that that person's giving off? And for most people, and like including you, Sahar, it was like confidence. Confidence was
Mm-hmm.
a big part of it, and diving deeper into that person, just being curious about what's making them confident, like what are their habits, who are they hanging around, what is their mindset, what are the actions that they're taking that's making them feel that way, and what is contributing to their health and happiness. And I think you holding yourself in a non-judgmental space and really focusing on joy, like that is completely in alignment with that future self. And so it's like it's inevitable that it happens. And again, like this is your future self. It's not, what does a confident person looks like?
Mm-hmm.
It's you yourself. Like what is your version of happy and healthy?
Yeah,
So that
definitely. And
was
I
really
think,
awesome.
yeah, and I think what's great about that too is like it also helped me kind of tap into what's made me feel like very kind of confident in the past, and like how to bring that more back into like the person I am now, and like how to like reinforce like those moments and stuff. So that way it's like, it's not something that I have to do that's like brand new and that I feel like totally scared of, or, anything like that. It's like stuff that I used to do a lot more, and that it's like, well, that clearly brought me so much joy and confidence. Like, why not continue that? And so, uh, trying to find ways to bring that into like my routine, and just to build up on that confidence through those ways, I think is also really helpful.
Yeah, it's like those pieces of evidence that show your brain, like, look, you're already here, as like serving them
Yeah.
as anchors for that. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so I guess like going along with your future self, in order to level up, we talked a lot about how you have to shed like past identities and you have to shed past habits in order to make room for your better self. So who did you have to let go of, or what did you have to let go of, and who did you have to become in order to get to where you are now?
So it's definitely hard, especially when you've been around for a minute, and so
Yeah.
obviously everyone has traumas and experiences that can lead to certain mindsets and certain habits that they have now. And so, of course, that can be really difficult to let go of. But I think I just really had to. And so, I had a lot of judgment from my family, and I had a lot of like their words and their kind of like actions towards me, even like the tones of their voice towards me because of like how they perceived me. A lot of that has definitely stayed with me over the years. And so I feel like I just really had to let go of that and stop doing what they think is good for me, or what they think like what works for them they think will work for me. Like I had to like really let go of kind of like trying to please other people, to be able to move on with myself and like also find that confidence within myself. And so obviously we've discussed this a lot, but like weightlifting is something that like makes me feel super empowered and confident, and like obviously literally makes you stronger. And so I've been able to find a ton of joy in that, and I've made so much progress even in just like the past like 2-3 months, and like
Oh yeah.
and so progress that like I never would have imagined that I could really get to. And even still, like I get some concerns like from my mom and my family, and I'm able to reassure them that I'm being safe about things, and I just put their concerns and their like possible judgments out of my head, because like one, I know I'm being safe, and two, it's something that truly brings me to a better, I feel like it's bringing me to a better point in my life. And like it's kind of like the evidence I need to show like I'm going in the right direction, like I'm like taking care of myself, like I'm doing something that like makes me happy, and makes me feel powerful and confident. And it's something that I plan on continuing like for as long as like possible. And so I think being able to find those things that really feel good to you and just truly like are important to you, I feel like is just really helpful. And I feel like you kind of talking me through that and helping me like realize too that like like maybe sometimes these people like have your best interests at heart, but they just don't know how to say it to you, or they think what's working for them can work for you, but that's not always the case, and you have a different journey from them. So it's just like being mindful that it's okay to obviously take those things into consideration, but sometimes it's not always going to be helpful, especially when there is like history there that, can be kind of negative. And so I think just kind of like being able to explore things from like my own decisions, like I made the choice to do counseling and for coaching, I mean, and, I feel like I was able to help myself a lot more through this, even more than like anything else, like any kind of like diet or like just other just personal training and stuff. So I think it was definitely a good decision.
Oh yeah, awesome. I love hearing that. You do use so hard. Go like love your life. Do everything that brings you joy. It's honestly been such a pleasure and like a privilege to watch you grow through this journey and just be an observer and help you through whatever it is. I really want to emphasize that like you are the one who did all the work.
Mhm.
And coaching is not like a teacher. Like I'm not trying to teach you how to do things the way that I do things. It's really
Right.
coaching you to figure out like for yourself who are you and how do you want to go about life. And you have been doing it beautifully. And I'm really excited to see where you go with it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, like, obviously, it's just sort of like the start of my journey. It was sort of like the beginning of me taking control of that for my life. And like, I still feel like I have like, it can be a long road ahead of you. Obviously, it's a slow process, like, or it can be a slow process depending on how you wanted to go about it. And for me, I think it's okay that it's slow. I think that I really just needed to go at my own pace. And I think that's what's great about coaching, and the things you take from it is you can just, implement it into your life. And that's the other thing too, is like, obviously diet culture plays a lot into how we feel of, how we take care of ourselves and how that affects us, like even mentally and not just physically. And like, it's always just kind of made me crash and burn. And so it's never helped me ever. And so, um, that was kind of a big thing with coaching, is like you helping me realize that like you don't have to like, suscept yourself to diet culture and, being put into those situations that just like don't make you feel good. And so, I think that was something that was just super helpful. And, you just kind of showed me like kind of like different options, like different ways to like think about things. And then it was kind of like up to me to kind of see like, okay, like what's working, or like, being like, oh, like you can try like affirmations in this way. And then if I tell you like, well, I tried that and it didn't really work for me, or it doesn't really fit into my routine. And you're like, that's fine. Like, like you don't have to do it then. And I was like, oh, like, okay. And we were able to like move on and like find something else that like worked better for me. And so I like that there's like that freedom, like that like choice that you can have like within coaching. Like, you help me realize things that like I probably wouldn't have found otherwise, or like I wouldn't have understood like how to go about otherwise. But like I'm still like making that decision at the end of the day. Like I'm still continuing it myself, like at the end of the day. And so yeah, I feel like that's definitely really helpful.
Yeah, you have the power. You're the driver in your own life. So I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today, Sahar. Is there anything else that you want to add to the conversation?
um yes, just like obviously thank you for like helping me get to this
Of
point. Like I
course.
said, it's like still feels really early in my journey, but I feel like you've given me a lot of tools to keep in mind and be aware of and implement into my routine. And so I'm very curious to see like uh, how I, use that in my life and how I'm able to improve myself, like, mentally, emotionally, physically, like because of coaching. And yeah, I'm just excited to see my progress and see how my life goes.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I will definitely be checking in and like we'll keep each other updated because I'll see you for training
Yeah.
as well. So I'm very excited to see how this goes, especially now that school's over for you. Summer's like right around
Yeah.
the corner. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Sahar. It was really awesome seeing you again and talking to you. So yeah. All right, and we are back. Well, friends, I hope you enjoyed listening to Sahar's interview. I thought it was incredible. She is so much fun, and all of our coaching sessions were always so much fun. It was really great to see her face just like glow and the way that she speaks evolve throughout the process. And I'm really excited to see where she goes from here. So if you're listening to this episode thinking, how can I do that? That sounds awesome. I want that. Then you need to be on my client list ASAP. So just go into the show notes and get the link to book a 30-minute clarity call with me to figure out if coaching is right for you, to get clear on what exactly you want to work on, and let's get you started. If you have been waiting for a sign to get started with coaching, this is it. Don't wait to get started. You don't need more energy, more time, or more resources. You have enough to get started right now. And the sooner you get started, the better you're gonna feel. Like the sooner you're gonna feel incredible and the sooner you're going to unlock the next level of your life. So don't wait on that because your highest self cannot wait for that shit, okay? So I'm hoping to see you on my calendar ASAP. If you're ready, you know you are. So let's do this.